Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite die-hard Astros fan podcaster. Feel free to add some more qualifiers to make that statement correct. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, and most importantly, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I once talked to Hakeem Olajuwon. It was... that's a story for another podcast, maybe, but honestly... You talk to the dream, and it's a dream, baby. You know, I've spent the last decade or so as a writer here in Los Angeles, and now, well, as you can tell, I'm podcasting. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You start absent-mindedly calling it The 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports was started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros. Here we aren't doom and gloom casual bandwagon fans, or worse, the national media haters and avoiders. We love our Houston teams and root them on, but also want to try to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. The key word here, of course, is try. Welcome to Week 5 Paul's Picks. Folks, baseball season is over, at least in Houston. As I mentioned yesterday, almost said last week, my goodness, my head's all over the place. Yesterday in my podcast where we kind of talked a little bit about the end of the Astros season, my goodness, we'll be talking about it for weeks. We'll be talking about it for months. Who am I kidding? But today, we're turning the page a little bit. We're talking football. Foosball is back, baby. It's week 5. Sadly, that doesn't bring much more joy to my ears as a Houston fan, but we'll get to it. We'll talk about the Houston Texans next game. We'll pick the games. We'll pick the winners. And yeah, just remind people that we're a comedy show, not a sports gambling podcast. If you, have an addictive personality, if you're out there chasing wins in gambling, maybe remember, save your money. At least don't listen to me. At least don't listen to me if you're putting the house on the line, okay? This is like a game. We could go back and laugh at my picks, all right? Before I go into my anti-gambling PSA, I'd like to welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brothers call the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brothers. I want to shout out Arrested Development fans. I want to shout out my brothers. And I'd like to take this moment to shout out my Substack. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience or the full blog experience, depending on your interpretation of my mumbles here. We're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. I have scrambled egg all over my face. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. I've got the cool, reasonable takes. This is a reactionary podcast in some kind of way, folks. Podcast culture is crazy. Sports culture and let's be honest, the male machismo around it sometimes is a bit much. Here, we try to remember that we've elected to be sports fans, that we've elected to have this be something that brings us joy in our life, hopefully. Maybe it's a surrogate for some anger for us at times, but we try to be reasonable. We try not to let sports run our emotions and our lives while still being passionate fans here. At least that's what we try to do. Easier said than done, especially when there is a sports apocalypse happening in Houston right now. It is a tough time, folks. Yikes. But before we get into that, before I spiral out of control with my emotions about the state of Houston sports, let's get to Paul's picks. Let's look at tonight's game. This Thursday night game actually is starting in a short amount of time as of the recording of this podcast. Carla and I are sitting down ready to watch some Thursday night football. Sadly, she's distraught with baseball season over. This is the first time in Carla's life that we haven't had October baseball as Astros fans. She's looking at me, wondering when she's going to get her treats from baseball games. And I had to sit down and explain to her that the Astros weren't able to make it this year. She just doesn't understand. Where are the books to tell you how to explain to your dog that the Astros didn't make it to the postseason? Because she doesn't understand this whatsoever. She thinks I'm holding out treats on her. So, we're going to have to find some ways to reward her for watching sports with me because she is not happy. She might be more upset that the season ended than any of y'all because we cut out her treat supply during baseball games now. I don't know. Maybe we just pick a team or pick a player and give her some treats when we watch some baseball games. I don't even have the heart. I've been watching the recaps, but I cannot watch the games. Before we completely spiral. I said before we completely spiral, and I started to spiral. You started to see me go down that slide of emotions. We're not going to do it completely today, folks. We have plenty of time. We have plenty of time this winter to talk about what happened to the Houston Astros this season. We've been talking about it all season. You got to experience in real time if you've been following the podcast. But let's move on to NFL Week 5, Thursday night's game, San Francisco versus the LA Rams. The Rams are favored by 8.5 here. The over-under is 43.5. I mean, they're both 3-1 teams. But I trust the Rams a lot more here. We're not going to overthink this one. This one, I'm going with the LA Rams. But that being said, it does feel a little bit closer, perhaps, than we're making it out to be. Apologies as I'm just smacking my mic around here. But yeah, I think, when you really look at it, the LA Rams are 3-1, but they faced the AFC South and lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. We got to see the Rams in motion. We know they're a good team, but we've also seen what the AFC South has to offer this season. They're not exactly world beaters. We're worried about our Houston Texans, but we still feel like there is a good shot that we win the division anyway. But the 49ers are 3-1. We don't feel exactly the same confidence around them. But I do think that perhaps this will be closer than we think. Maybe it's closer than the 8.5 spread. I don't know. Who am I? A comedian with a podcast, not a gambling expert. Remember, don't come crying to me for your picks. We're going with the LA Rams and gonna not overthink it there. When we're saying don't come crying to me about our picks, let's go ahead and check out on how my picks have been doing this season in my picks league on my sleeper app with my friends group. Last week, week 4, I didn't get my double-digit week. I was 9-7. I definitely missed some things. I missed out on the Pittsburgh win, on the Atlanta win. That's for sure. I mean, everybody missed out on the New York Giants, I think. Got burned by the Chiefs. My underdog of the week, sorry, Carla, I'll own it. Carla's dog of the week is what we call it, but, I picked it. So my dog of the week lost by 6 points to the New York Jets, even when, I had a little faith in them. I mean, there was a tie game, 40-40. It was a weird one, folks. It was a weird week. However, I was 9-7. On the entire season so far, I've picked 38 winners. It's been a rough one for me, but at least I'm being honest about it, folks. At least I'm not sitting here lying to y'all, trying to make myself sound better. We'll rebound. We will rebuild. Let's move on to Sunday's games here, folks. The first game, wake up early, folks. Make sure you set your lineups in fantasy. It's for me here on the Pacific Coast, it's a 6:30 a.m. game for me, folks. This is a London game. The Browns are at home, but remember, nobody's really at home. The Minnesota Vikings are taking on the Cleveland Browns at quote-unquote home. Minnesota is favored on the road here, 3.5. And while they're 2-2, and, they maybe, struggling a little bit more than they were last season, I still don't see how the Minnesota Vikings lose this one. I'm definitely going with Minnesota here. I believe the Browns, the Browns sadly are 1-3 this season, and they are starting a new quarterback. Joe Flacco, I believe, is being benched here for rookie quarterback. They've They're 30th in points scored per game, I believe. So I get it, but yeah, it seems like this is not the game for the Cleveland Browns. Why overthink it? We're moving on. The Las Vegas Raiders, the 1-3 Las Vegas Raiders, are playing the Indianapolis Colts, who are 3-1. Apologies, I almost said 1-3 because that makes sense to me. Yep, all shade to Colts fans, of course. Look, it's a friendly rivalry. While I say that we are not trying to, be a typical podcast, of course, we're still a typical sports podcast, I should say. We still want to have our smack talk. That's part of the fun of it. We're just, you don't make your smack talk personal. It's ridiculous, So anyway, all shade to the Colts fans for being 3-1. We'll see how everything shakes out at the end of the season. However, they are better than we thought they were. That is 100% for sure. The Colts are favored in this game by 7 points, -7 at home. The over-under is 48. I mean, sadly, I wish I could be spicy and take the Raiders. But while I wish I could do that, I know that would be a little bit of a spicy take, a little bit of emotional take, because I don't like my rivals. We're trying to win games here, folks. We are not going to overthink it and talk ourselves into the Raiders. We're going with the Colts and moving on. The next game, the New York Giants, who are 1-3 now, taking on the New Orleans Saints. 0-4, really tough year in New Orleans. We were anticipating that. That's not shocking. New Orleans is favored though. However, at home here by 2 points. The over/under is 42. This is going to be a close one. That's for sure. The fact that the Saints are favored, kind of pushes the needle for me in that direction. And, perhaps I should have some more faith in the New York Football Giants. But it's hard. It's hard to take them even as an underdog in this game. I do feel like, the New Orleans Saints are still a football team. They're still going to run into a couple. These teams have been struggling so much that maybe this is New Orleans' time. I'm not gonna overthink this one either. We're going a little bit chalk in this one again, but we're gonna go with the Saints. All apologies to the New York Football Giants. I have no faith in y'all. That is essentially what I'm saying here. I've been proven wrong. The Giants have won a game. The Saints haven't. But I'm feeling that this can be one of the ones that they run into this season. Moving on, the Dallas Cowboys, tying a game last week against the Green Bay Packers, are now 1-2-1. I feel like the Count from Sesame Street. Just saying random numbers here. They're playing the New York Jets, another lowly 0-4 team. The Jets have had a tough season. Dallas is favored on the road here by 2.5 points. I feel like that's about right. I think Dallas is winning this game. I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be a heartbreaker for Jets fans. I laugh because I love, okay? Jets fans. It's tough. It's tough. I have a friend who is a Jets fan and a Mets fan, and I mean, look, I can't talk. It's a tough season right now in Houston, but goodness, I know the pain. I am sorry, Jets fans. I do not think this is your week. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next game. The next game is going to be Denver. The Broncos are 2-2 versus the Eagles. Philly is 4-0 on this season. Philly is favored at home by 3.5 points. This does feel like maybe it's a spicy pick. I think I've been feeling like Denver is a team on the rise this season. With Bo Nix out there. Who knew that I'd be such a Bo Nix fan? I think I think Philly can be a little bit of a suspect team at times, but they have had a solid start to the season. I think that they continue to roll here, and they win this game against Denver. Once again, really not shocking the world with any of my picks. I am trying to gain some wins back, but also so far all of this just seems pretty straightforward. Maybe y'all know some stuff I don't know. Let me know in the comments for sure. But while I'm going to give you some time to get those comments together, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with some more Paul's Picks.
Houston Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town rebel with Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr. If you're just tuning into the middle of the podcast, welcome. And welcome back to those of you regular podcast listeners. You know we always reset the podcast because podcasting is based off of radio broadcast tendencies. So we're moving on from our short little break there to the Miami game, Miami versus Carolina. It feels like there's a lot of stinkers this week. Miami's 1-3, Carolina's 1-3. Miami is favored on the road here by 1.5, and the over/under is 45.5. I do think that if this comes down to a little bit of a shootout, Miami should win here. This is a complete stay away game for me, if I'm being honest. I don't know. This one seems like it could be a bit of a coin flip. I think I'm going to go with Miami because I do think at the end of the day, they do have some more talent. I do think they can be better coached, but all of this is speculative. I mean, the whole podcast is speculative. That's what we're doing here. Why am I going to get all start wringing my hands over speculation? That's what we're doing today. We're picking Miami. We're not going to overthink it. Who knows how that game's going to turn out? We'll find out. We will. Now, we're moving on to the next game, and this next game, of course, is near and dear to my heart, and your heart as well if you're a Houston Texan fan like me. Houston is on the road in Baltimore. Houston is 1-3. Baltimore is 1-3. Lamar Jackson remains out of practice as of Thursday with a hamstring injury, and that helps Houston Texans fans feel a lot better about this game. And it makes Vegas feel a lot better about Houston in this game. But with that being said, it really barely moves the line in Houston's favor. Houston is favored on the road here, -2. The over-under is 40.5. And while I do, especially after that get-right game, that slump-buster game in Tennessee against Tennessee, I think the Texans can start figuring it out. They were able to score points. They were able to shut out a team. But it was the Tennessee Titans. And, they aren't exactly the best the NFL has to offer this season. So it's hard to have a lot of faith in the Houston Texans actually turning that corner here as an organization. However, I feel that if Baltimore doesn't have Lamar Jackson, it is going to be some tough sledding for Baltimore against this defense. I think the Houston Texans can they score 21 points and keep the other team out of topping them. I think they can. However, it has been a tough season, and I'm very skeptical of what the Texans have to offer. I'm not going to talk myself out of it, though. We are picking the Texans. I cannot pick them. I think it really comes down to this. If Lamar Jackson is in that game, that's going to be a tough one for the Texans. It'd be tough for me to pick them. But if he is sitting out, I'm going with the Texans for sure. It doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel like I'm very confident about them, that's for sure. But that's the way the season has gone so far. Moving on to the next game, Tennessee is 0-4, and they're playing a 2-2 Arizona Cardinals team in Arizona. Arizona is favored in this game by 7.5 points. The over/under is 42. I do think the Titans, are better than their 0-4 record for sure. But like I said, they really are struggling. Cam Ward knows it too. I believe he called earmuffs, children. I believe Cam Ward, and these are Cam Ward's words. These are words, okay? Not mine. Words, okay? Not my words. They're Ward's words. He said the Titans are ass. I have to agree. And for that reason, we are picking the Arizona Cardinals. Vegas is picking the Cardinals. It only makes sense. But I do think Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans will turn it around a little bit this season, but I don't know if it's in this game. against Kyler Murray. Moving on to the next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-1 on the season. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-1 on the season. It seems like it's nothing but these kind of coin flip type games, these very close type matchups. However, I do agree with the line here. The Seattle is favored by 3.5, -3.5 for Seattle at home. 44.5 is the over under in total here. And yeah, I do think I like Seattle. This has been, while Arizona and Seattle, they always, I tend to like them. I have that vibe for them. I think this continues here at home for Seattle. I also do like the Buccaneers. However, I think I'm going with the home team. I feel like, but I wouldn't say this is a stay away game like the Miami game, but it fills me with dread. I don't know if I feel that confident in that pick. Moving on, Detroit Tigers against the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is one I feel pretty confident in. The Detroit Tigers is 3-1. The Bengals have been bingling their season. They're 2-2. Detroit is favored by they're -10.5 here in a 49.5 over-under. We're definitely going with Detroit before I even looked at any of those numbers, but those numbers clarify it for me. I'm not the only one thinking this. If you have a good feeling, if you know a lot about the Bengals and you think they're going to take this game, this is your week. However, we all agree the Lions are going to win this one definitively. Moving on, the Washington Commanders are 2-2. The LA Chargers are 3-1, coming off of a tough loss for them last week. The Chargers are at home and are favored by 3 points. The over-under is 47. I mean, I was hoping the Commanders would be better this season, but they really have kind of been struggling. Well, not kind of. They're 2-2. You could see they've been struggling this season. They're kind of not quite where I thought they were. Laramie Tunsil doesn't look like the answer for them either. It's tough. We're definitely picking the Chargers here. I do not know if the Commanders are going to be able to turn their season around at all. But also I'm not watching them as much as I'm watching the Texans. But I do kind of see a little bit of parallels there. Even though Washington was on their way up, I a little behind the Texans, I guess, when it comes to that growth. We are kind of watching to see where that team kind of turns, where the break is for that team, kind of the same way we're watching the Texans right now. Moving on to Sunday night's game, the New England Patriots are taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Pats are 2-2, and the Bills are 4-0. Buffalo is favored at home by 8 points, and we 100% agree here. It's hard to go with Paul's pick of the week. The pick that I feel the strongest about this week right now, it's obviously between the Detroit Tigers beating the Bengals and the Buffalo Bills beating the Patriots, because we feel very strongly about both of those wins here at the podcast. Carla and I, we're taking Buffalo. Sorry, Pats fans, and moving on. But not even that sorry. I mean, my stepdad and my mom went to a Texans game, in New England, and they were mortified with the way that Pats fans were behaving towards them. So I'm not sorry, Pats fans. The beef remains. Moving on to Monday night's game. The Kansas City Chiefs are 2-2. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-1 in this Monday night game. Kansas City is favored on the road here by 3.5 points. What do we make of this? The Kansas City Chiefs love dropping games in the regular season. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they're atop the AFC South here with the Colts, obviously. Now, a lot of pundits, I should say, a lot of podcasters, we're all feeling a little bit better about the Jaguars than we were the Colts going into this season. The Jaguars even have been favored to win the AFC South by some talking heads. Not David Byrne, but some talking heads, I'm saying. Do we think this is a sneaky week for Jacksonville? Let's kind of look at it. Can Trevor Lawrence beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Will Patrick Mahomes struggle against the Jacksonville Jaguars? When it comes to points scored per game, they're both hovering around 24. When it comes to points allowed per game, the Jacksonville Jaguars are allow 18, and the Kansas City Chiefs allow 19. So they're right there. When it comes to yards per game, they're within 10 yards per game. Jacksonville, 355. Kansas City, 245. Passing yards, definitely the Chiefs got them there, but with 211 for the Jacksonville, 234 for the Chiefs. But rushing, obviously, that's where the Jacksonville Jaguars have been making their money this season, with 144 rushing yards for the Jaguars, making them fourth in the league, with only 110 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I do think at the end of the day, this can be a much closer game than even the line, 3.5. I do favor the Chiefs here too, and that I feel that, but there's just something to me, something in my gut telling me that this can be a much closer game than I'm anticipating, and it makes me want to choose that Jacksonville Jaguars underdog, but I just can't do it, and I need an underdog this week. I need a Carla's pick of the week. But after last week, after I burned Carla, or after Carla's dog of the week, and after I failed to get double-digit wins, I have been hesitant of the underdogs this week. There's no Carla's dog of the week. Carla is the dog of the week this week. Apologies to you degenerate gamblers, but Carla's the dog of the week, and she does deserve it. And when it comes to Paul's pick of the week, we're going to go with Buffalo over New England. There's just something about the Bengals that scare me sometimes. I feel good about Detroit beating them, but I do feel much better about Buffalo beating New England, so we're going with them for Paul's pick of the week. And with that being said, folks, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, smash it. All of those buttons for me. We are a small podcast, and we only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you. So please share with a Houston fan or Australian in your life and give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to this podcast on. Pretty please. That is as good as gold. That's the best way to support the podcast, and probably, I don't know, maybe send me a big check. Outside of sending me a big Publishers Clearinghouse check, the best way to support the podcast is giving me a 5-star rating, so please do that. If you also already have done that and you want to support more, check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com and subscribe to support and tell me what you think. You could also be a premium subscriber there to help financially support the podcast. Right now, I try to get all posts out behind a paywall. To be a premium subscriber, there are some little perks. You do get to see every post ever on the website. There's things like that. But if you'd like to be a premium subscriber to help financially support the podcast, please do that and write in and let me know what you'd like some of those perks to be. We can build this community together on the Substack. Once again, spacecadetsports.substack.com. You can check us out on social media. Let us know your takes. Let us know if you feel good about the Houston Texans this week at Space Cadet Sports, spacecadetsportspod.bsky.social. Or you can call in and let me know at SpeakPipe. We lost that password for a bit, but we're back on our voicemails. That's speakpipe.com/SpaceCadetSports, where you can call in like a radio show. Let me know your take. If it isn't too crazy, I'll definitely put it on the podcast, or at least I'll respond to you. And if you're not able to support in those ways, or you just don't want to, you can actually support us by buying merch. That's right, we have merch. We have Don't Sleep on Houston, some basketball shirts there for you. We have Carla the dog hats and H-Town Blue. We have all kinds of merch there at paulsalazarjr.com/store. Go ahead and check that out, where you can support the podcast by getting some merch from us. And if you've gotten this far and you like me, you want to get some more Paul in your life, you want some more weird jokes, memes, art, podcasts, and much more, you can find it at Paul Salazar JR on social media. Once again, that website's paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net, where you can find my other Substack. My other comedy podcast is about to start up soon. You can find all my other nonsense if you're nasty. Thanks for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.
Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston, born and raised, H-Town Rebel, Space Cadet Sports.